My name is Yusef, and welcome to part 36 of the movie revolution. Let us begin. So, Peter was laying down on a bed next to her boyfriend, who is the president, and she was like, one moment. She was like, and then she said, no. She said, she said, and she said, she knows. And he knew exactly what she was talking about. He was like, she does? And she was like, yeah. We went to the carnival and we were having a good time. And then she just told me that she knew. Well, and then he says, well, you were hiding it well. And then she says, I thought so too. Probably she was still mad because her father died. Yeah, I think so too. And then they were both, and they both went back to bed. Um, the next morning, they were having breakfast, and she was like, you know, I think we should invite the anti-movie protesters so we can have a meeting about what we should do further, about what further things, about what further things that we should do about all this. And then he said, I agree. No problem. Should we invite the press? He says. And then she says, eh, yeah. And then he says, I don't think you're too sure about this. Should we invite the press or not? And then he says, then she says, yeah, yeah. Are you sure? And then he also says, because I cannot, no, I don't mind not doing it. It's not a big deal. And then she says, yeah, no problem. Okay, no big deal. And then he says again, are you sure now? And then she says, yeah, no problem. Invite them. Yeah, yeah, invite them. It's not a big deal. So he did. They so so she went outside. Well, she went outside to see the movie protest, and of course participate in them. And then she pulled an anti-movie protester aside and says, I think we should have a meeting. Do you want to have a meeting with me? And she says, and then she says, I think it would be a good idea for us to organize our message. You know what I mean? That's just me, but I mean you can do whatever you want, but in my opinion, I think we should organize. And then the man says who was processing the whole idea of films in America said, sure, who are you? Well, my name is Peter. I'm the girlfriend of the president. And then he says, cool, no problem. Let me invite my friends and see how we can do this. Cause I think that's a great idea. And then he says, I think it's a good idea that you're doing this. I'm in. And so he went to his friend and asked, the first lady is she wants a meeting with us. And then the other guy says, cool, I'm in too. And then so on and so on and so on and so on. And then until the meeting was set. Then she says, you know, we're going to have cameras, put, um, we're going to have cameras in the White House in our meeting. Do you mind? And then he says, sure. I mean, no, it's not a big deal. I don't mind. And so it was set. The meeting was set. So the news was so like it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Um, People were walking in to the White House to see what to have this meeting, and the meeting was like, so I think we should go further. I think we should convince the people that movies shouldn't exist in America, only exist in Mexico where it belongs. Where it belongs, Peter says. And then Joey says, cool. Also, yeah, but, and then he asks, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but, um, in order to ingrain that in them, we need a good message to show that movies are not good and theater and television is. How could we do that exactly? And then she says, commercials, obviously. And then he says, cool. I mean, PSAs. And then she says, yeah. I think that'd be a good idea. And then she said, I know I just met you, but we're having a connection here. And I think it's working very well. Don't you? Joey says. Yeah, me too. I mean, we're on the same page here, man. And then she says, I agree. And then he says, cool. I mean, that's nice. So they move on to other business. And the news and the person's like asking questions that, well, Peter answered accordingly. And the entire news media was like, so, like, you know, it was overwhelming, the questions that they were asking. And and so the, the president decided that he was going to kick him out for the day because it, he could tell that it was overwhelming for his girlfriend to have to answer these questions, but he didn't want to be mean about it, and so he was like, guys, I think you have, I think you asked enough questions. Um, so if you, I think you should leave, he says. And then she says, goodbye. And then he says, now, please. And so security puts him out of the house. And they continue with the meeting. The president, chimed in with a question. So, how are we going to do these commercials? PSAs. She corrected him. And then she corrected him and said PSAs. And he says, okay, PSAs. How are we gonna do this? And then she says, well, we're going to like put big celebrities who are not into films and just into theater and or television on to tell people that movies are wrong and they shouldn't be allowed in America. And it shouldn't be filmed in America either. And then she says, but I think we might have a problem with that because most actors and actresses are not into film anymore, they're into movies. And so they are purely supporting it and not anti it. And then she says, and then he says, yeah, I think we should pay them a lot more money. Did you want to drink some money? He says. And then they laughed and laughed. And that was it. He also, no, Joey and his friend said, well, we have to leave now. And then he says, and, and then he says, but it was nice talking to you. Do you want to do this tomorrow? And he says, and then the person says, yeah, we would love to. And then it was. The meeting was set for next week. So they have other people, so they have other people, the other people to leave to along with the rest of the entire movie protesters. And so it was. And then they were like, that was great, that was fun. And then they made out to be continued. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, leave a like, leave a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. And while you're doing that, comment down below what do you think about the video. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.